Hello and welcome to another update. In this one, there's a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Starting out in the Luhansk front, the Russian forces continue their attacks in the direction of Novoselivsk. They are trying to recapture the village after the Ukrainians recaptured it a few weeks ago, and the fighting continues intensely in this village. As for the Kreminna area, the Russian forces continue their attacks to the west of Chernopolivka and in the direction of Terny and Yempolivka. There are also reports of them fighting in the direction of Serishne and to the southwest of Kreminna in the forest line west of Shipilivka, as well as to the southwest of Dibrova. As for the Bilohorivka area, the Russian forces continue attacking the city as the Ukrainian forces are still holding on to it. As for the bit further south, the Russian forces continue attacks in the direction of Verkhnokamiansk, and it's also reported by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense that the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Vyemka, and according to Wargonzo in the direction of Vesele, and again Ukrainian Ministry of Defense in the direction of Fedorivka. And to the west of Blagodatne, the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Selizhnyansk, as well as Orihovo Vasilivka and Dubovo Vasilivka. This is all according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, and this is according to Wargonzo. And this is very interesting because knowing the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, they don't report when the fighting is actually within the village, but just in that direction. So the Russian forces are attacking in three general directions: to the west of Blagodatne, to the north in the direction of Selizhnyansk, to the northwest against Orihovo Vasilivka, and to the straight southwest towards Dubovo Vasilivka. With this, we can see that the Russian forces are trying to capture the hills here to the northwest of Bakhmut and capture the E40 highway, or as much of that as they can capture, to cut off the Ukrainian forces in Pereskovivka and Krasnogora. As we can see, they are attacking the very northern outskirts of Bakhmut, which will cut off any supplies between Bakhmut and these two villages. And at the same time, they're attacking to this northwestern area. If they cut off this road as well, there'll be no roads to Krasnogora and Pereskovivka. So they're trying to completely encircle Pereskovivka and Krasnogora, and at the same time attack in these three directions. Now, if we look at the Google Earth map, we can see that this is the Blagodatne area, and that they're advancing here to the northwest of it, towards Selizhnyansk, Orihiv Vasilivka, and Dubovo Vasilivka. From this, we can see that they're advancing in this direction on the eastern area of this valley here. If we zoom further in and look upwards, we can see here that this is the valley. We can see that to each side of this valley there's a high ground, and they're advancing on the eastern high ground of this valley. If we zoom a bit out and then move up the highway, up the hill, we can see that in every direction, Selizhnyansk, it is on the low ground. Towards the west, the two villages are also on the low ground, here by the highway, which is also on the low ground. And then there's a hill across the highway. And then there's the villages, Dubovo Vasilivka, and to the east, Orihovo Vasilivka. So we can see that these heights here are very significant for the control over the highway, as it lets the Russian forces control this hill to the east of it, which will prevent the Ukrainian forces from using it, as the Russians will bombard them from this side. And at the same time, it will allow them to advance westwards across the hills and attack the Ukrainian positions on this area, and advance towards Pereskovivka and encircle the two villages here, which are also situated on the low ground. And if we look at the topographic map, we get a better overview of the topography itself. You can see that this is the hill that the Russian forces are trying to control, and that the villages of Pereskovivka and Krasnogora are here. So the Russian forces are looking to advance towards the highway, and then advance from the high ground, through the high ground, and down towards Pereskovivka and Krasnogora from the western side. As for Bakhmut itself, the fighting continues to the northern outskirts of the city, as well as to the northeastern areas in the residential areas, and to the very east, where the Russian forces are continuing the advances in these residential areas. And finally, there's been no reports on the southern area, but most likely fighting is ongoing here as well. As for this western area here, we can see, according to Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, again, not in Chasiv Yar itself, but in the direction of it, which means that they're continuing to advance their advances along the canal, which in my analysis yesterday, I talked about how the Russian forces are most likely aiming to try to capture the eastern part of the canal along the whole area to get a good and strong flank to defend against Ukrainian counterattacks and completely encircle the whole Bakhmut area rather than just Bakhmut city itself. Further south in the Donetsk front, we see here that there's fighting in the direction of Kamyanka, as well as Avdiivka, and to the north of Vuhledar in the direction of Sheverne. So the Avdiivka one is according to Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, so is the Vuhledar one, but according to them, the fighting is in Vuhledar itself, so not sure if it's in the direction of Sheverne or in the direction of Vuhledar to the west here. Either way, the Russian forces are trying to hold on these positions and are advancing northwards towards Sheverne, so most likely it is both of these places. The fighting continues in Pervomaiske, Krasnohorivka and Marinka as well, as the Russian forces are trying to advance within these areas and reach the city of Krasnohorivka to the west of Donetsk. As for the Vuhledar area, there is fighting reported in Vuhledar itself, which according to some of my viewers in the Telegram channel told me that it is Vuhledar, so I'll try to remember that. However, since it's not my native language, I will keep forgetting it as it is spelled like Vuhledar. And there's also reported fighting in Bohko-Yavlenka, and this is also according to Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. So the question here is it from the south, a southwestern flank in that direction, trying to cut off Vuhledar, and try to encircle it? Or is it an attempt from the east to go around the coal mine? I'm not really sure. But it seems to be the western one, as if it's the eastern one, they could just report fighting in the direction of Vuhledar. But then again, it could also be both of them, in case that the Vuhledar they meant was the southern one and not the northern one. In that case, they would be trying to do a double envelopment strategy to try and completely encircle Vuhledar, as they try to attack from the west and the east towards Vuhledar and Bohko-Yavlenka here in the southern front. Looking at the front line as a whole, we can see that there are two main areas of fighting. We can see that there is the area around Bakhmut to Liman, and then we have the area around Donetsk to Vuhledar. And we can see that it is heavily focused around the Bakhmut to Liman area. There's also a large concentration of forces on both sides, and the Russian forces are advancing on the whole front line. Just looking at this with 12 axes of attack in the Bakhmut itself, as well as with another 9 here between the Siversk and Liman areas. There's a lot of fighting here in the forest to the southwest of Kreminna, as the Russian forces have pulled in their VDV soldiers to fight in these close quarter combat areas, as well as their heavy and modernized equipment to give support to these soldiers. And that is all for today's update. Also remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching and have a great day.